Hello, everyone. Welcome to the webinar session. We're going to give everyone a couple minutes to join, and we'll kick things off in the next minute or two. Thanks for being here. Looks like we have quite a few people trickling in, so that's awesome.
Some celebrities in the mix, I see. I just saw Dustin Kirby pop up.
Wouldn't be a webinar without some celebs, huh, Chris?
I know, exactly.
All right, guys. Well, we are about at that time to kick things off. So, without further ado, I wanted to welcome everyone to the 2026 Revenue Playbook, Turning Your CRM into a Growth Engine webinar. Today, we're super excited to be having a powerhouse conversation on the why you should stop treating your CRM essentially like a filing cabinet and how to start using it as a powerful tool that's going to generate revenue for you as you finalize your plans and strategy for 2026. I'm Rebecca Mayo. I'm the Director of Partnerships here at gFour Marketing, and today I'm joined by two of my dear friends. Chris, I'll kick it over to you.
Hey, thanks, Becca. Hi, my name is Chris Rice. I am the Director of Partnerships at Builder Prime. Relatively new in that role, but been around the industry for a while, so have quite a bit of experience in the CRM space with a lot of different products. So, we're here to just share my experience and really how you can hopefully utilize your CRM better. Whatever you have in place right now, get the most out of it, and not only for 26. I think there's still some time here in 25 we might be able to, squeeze out some extra revenue. So, yeah, really happy to be here. Thanks for the invite, Becca. I know it's people would be disappointed because Ryan was going to be here, and I kind of elbowed him out. So, his fans are going to be disappointed, but glad to be here. And with that, I'm going to kick it over to Ronnie.
Hey everyone, my name is Ronnie Smith. I'm the founder and CEO of NXTLVL Solutions, and I'm super excited about being a part of this webinar. A lot of the things we're going to be talking about is definitely pain points for a lot of contractors in the industry. So I'm just glad to be here. Thanks, Becca, for the invite, and I'm excited for the conversation.
Awesome. Well, all right, guys, we're just going to get right into it in the spirit of
Let's
time.
go.
Yeah, let's do it. All right, Chris and Ronnie, my first question for you is when you hear the phrase your CRM is a growth engine, what does that mean to both of you?
I'll kick off with that. I mean, the CRM is the center, should be the centerpiece of your business. I mean, it really is the hub where everything comes in. The home improvement business is based on leads. Without leads, you have nothing. Where do you put those leads? How do you get the most out of those leads? It's also very competitive. So when you get those leads in that you've worked hard for, you've spent money on, to make sure that you get as many appointments, qualify them, get those appointments, get those demos, get those sales. That is the most critical piece of the CRM, and it really is imperative to manage your business. When you're just starting out and you're new, maybe you can manage things with a spreadsheet, just have that basic information. But if you have any intentions to scale, to increase your business, it is imperative that you have a system. And I always recommend an industry specific CRM system that is built to manage leads, schedule appointments, get them assigned to a sales rep, and then manage that sales appointment, and then all the way through to production. Because if it doesn't get installed, again, you don't collect the money. So it's really getting that whole process and having that work is what the CRM is all about. Ronnie, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, just feeding off of what you're saying, Chris. I mean, taking it from the very beginning of lead all the way through the process is very huge. One thing that I'll tell you is that everywhere I have gone and all the contractors I've worked with, we all have some common denominators here of pain points. Is communication breakdown is the number one problem that I face, right? Poor visibility, not knowing exactly where things are, because a lot of people that are still on pen and paper, or maybe they're not maximizing that CRM, maybe they're just to a filing cabinet. That's going to tell my age, but
Yeah.
people are going out and they're creating those files. Well, if it's in the office or they don't have it right there in front of them. And if they don't maximize their systems and their CRM and get everybody in it, then if you want to fix your communications, if you want to fix your visibility issues, poor follow-up, you'd be surprised how much money it gets left on the table just because they don't know exactly where they are. So I think as far as from a growth standpoint, for companies that are wanting to grow and develop with having the right strategies, the processes, the right people, and implementation into these systems, it will help them to be able to grow. So I think you're right, Chris. I think a lot of it, when you think about growth, is just the visualization, opening up communications, fixing the follow-up issues, and being able to track where you are, track your money, track the progress of those things. So I agree with you on that.
That's great, Ronnie. So before we dive into the meat and potatoes of our session today, the three of us want to hear from those of you who are attending live right now. We want to hear from you specifically. What are you guys most focused on as you're planning for 2026? So we launched a quick poll here, give you all a moment to look at these questions. And if you want to respond, feel free.
And then also, if anybody's any questions throughout this, please feel free to chime in as well. We want to keep this as interactive as possible. So please feel free to use the Q&A piece, and we'll try to address all the questions we can here live.
Perfect. All right, we'll leave it up for 10 more seconds.
Give them the countdown, Becca. Come on.
Final countdown. Here we go. All right, looks like we got some good responses here as we dive into our session. Great. All right. So moving right through. Chris, let's start by talking about turning contacts into contracts, shall we?
Yeah, I mean, this really follows up with what Ronnie, and I said follow up there, what Ronnie mentioned is there's a lot of money that gets left on the table. And a lot of this comes down to automation. And that's where a CRM, this is something that's changed since I started in the business, selling, slinging CRM solutions. The automation that's available today makes this, it's inexcusable, I'd have to say, not to follow up properly. There is obviously a big push. We all want that one call close. We want to get the sale while we're in the home. But the reality is it doesn't always happen. So what do? Do you just forget about that? You can't. You have to have systems in place to make sure you're following up. And part of it is to, one, get that business. So by having automation built in, if you get when you update the status in your CRM to, hey, this was a demo, no sale, then an email should automatically go out. The contract can be resent for them to sign. You can have then somebody follow up with a phone call, a text message. Having these systems in place is critical, and the CRM is how you do that. It should all be in the CRM. There are integrations you can do, but having it all built into one system just makes it so much easier. And we all know, I mean, I know from my sales career, following up is the critical piece of getting business. And a lot of, whether it be a homeowner or it could be somebody else in the business that you're selling to, they respect that. They want to be, until they tell you no, you follow up with them. Until they tell you, please, stop calling me. And I'm not talking about being annoying, but we like to say professionally persistent,
right,
and staying in front of them. And I think that's something that you really want to make sure of. And also the other piece is, once you get that contract, is to have the automations then to follow up to make sure you keep that contract, because there is nothing more painful than working hard, getting the sale, and then losing it. I mean, that is about as deflating as it gets. And none of us like to see that. I mean, I know personally, I've had the experience, and it sucks, quite honestly. Ronnie, what do you think? What are your thoughts on this?
I want to throw actually everything that you're saying is right on point. I want to throw a few statistics out there because I think it's important for people to understand, especially if you're in the home improvement space and you're doing a lot of retail. And this has held true. This actually happened to me not too long ago. But you typically will, if you're in retail, there's about a 72-hour window, right? When people are like in that mode of trying to make a decision. I'm not saying that you're not going to close it, but there is a window of opportunity to where you have a higher opportunity to be able to close that job on a retail. So you just want to make sure that you have like within the 24 hours, you have those follow-ups in place with those automations, whether it's email, whether it's text, whether it's calling the actual customer and doing those things. I think that's actually also, I think it's
Well,
important to understand that right now statistics show us that a salesperson actually goes out, they meet with the homeowner, and around 35 to 45% of the time, the salespeople don't follow up. They never deliver the
mhm.
estimate. It's horrible. But there are times to where the salesperson actually did go out, they delivered it, and then they never followed back up. And that's like 75 to 80%. So
Wow.
by going in and with the CRM and developing the processes, the systems in place through the automations and closing those gaps, and to prove this, there was one of my clients that where they were during COVID, and they none of the sales guys were following up. And she took it upon herself to do that. And when she did that, she almost closed $2.1 million just going back through rehash and going back through that. So when you have the visualization of follow up, whether it's 3 days, 7 days, 10 days, just the different ones. So I just think it's important based off of what you're saying, and I think that through the estimating and getting it to estimating to close, but you are right, especially depending on the areas that have that 3 day right to rescission.
Hmm.
That is the most critical time to stay engaged with that customer, to get them over that threshold. So
Yeah, and
there's some
don't
points there.
don't let that buyer's remorse creep in. Just get ahead of it. Keep
Yeah.
so you built the excitement on this project that they're going to do. They're ready for it. Keep that momentum. Build that excitement. Have those automated text messages going out. Have a project manager call them. Get right in front of them right away. That's how we're going to keep that business. And and I challenge everyone on this. Look at your whatever you're using for CRM. I don't care what it is. You can do this. Look at all your demo no sales and pull that list, run that and then look at what kind of opportunity you might have. I mean, if you think about your
Mhm.
business, if you closed 1-2% of those, what is that going to do for your numbers for the year? I mean, it's really something that can make a very quick, instant impact.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely. And I think when it comes to those opportunities, as well as like, at least when I'm talking to some of our partners, sometimes they think about like their lead gen strategy, for
Hmm.
example. And something that I'm hearing a lot of right now is the cost of net new leads is astronomical
Yeah.
for an owner and operator right now looking to acquire. So where I think tapping into the CRM is really beneficial is because what we say here at gFour, you have a gold mine at your
Yep.
fingertips of leads that you can dig back into and reactivate customers that you have done business for in the past that maybe you just haven't communicated with in a while. And it's such a good time of year to think about this too, because, for example, if you guys, anyone listening to this that has a business that runs a holiday promo or any type of special, it's a great time to consider doing that. So,
Yeah,
Mm.
and I'm going to say on that, Rebecca. I'm going to throw a shout out here to your team. I mean, if you are trying to figure out how to do something like this, I mean, gFour actually. I mean, Dustin Kirby, I mentioned him earlier. Pete, and guys I used to work with back in the old days. These guys have so much experience working in the CRMs and working how to help you mine it. Use them as a resource. I mean, get in touch with these people. Go through I mean, obviously, gFour offers some great solutions and programs, but these guys are resources. And that's when they give me like Ronnie, myself,
Mhm.
Beck, any of us, reach out to us. We're going to help. We're here to help you. If you
Yeah.
have questions about, what should I be doing or how do I do it with what I'm existing in my existing platform, there are so many people that are willing to help you. Leverage that.
And Chris, I know we're on a time, and I want to just close. I want to put a bow on this for people to understand. A lot of times as we're entering into the wintertime, depending on what part of the home improvement year, whether you're in roofing, windows and doors, bathroom models. For some people, they start shifting down, and
Hmm.
then honestly, they should be leaning into like the business that wasn't closed this year because it could carry them through the winter, even if they don't even start on it until next year, right? So I think it's very critical to be able to utilize these tools. And just to say this is, look, the sales guys work extremely hard in getting the business closed, but it takes the rest of the team, right? Because there's an
Hmm.
expectation that has been set in sales, but through automations through the CRM is making sure that the back office is following up. Because
Yes.
like there's a like sometimes there's a dead of silence, especially if you're building a roof or you're putting in windows and doors. All that stuff is you're having to manufacture that, so things go silent, and then you have the customer having to react, and they're calling in and checking in, and when that happens, you start
It's
losing
trouble.
credibility just like then. So I just wanted to kind of throw that out there, but I know we have to move on, but I just think that's very critical.
But it's also a good opportunity to reach back out to them, Becca, to your point with the expensive leads, to really
Mm-hmm.
push your referral program. Look for
Mm-hmm.
cross-sell opportunities. Most of the, companies that we work with, they're selling multiple product lines, and you've earned their trust already. Leverage
Mm-hmm.
that, take advantage of it, and that's a way to bring down your cost of acquisition for those leads.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. And for everyone listening to this who's thinking about sitting down with their team and putting together their 2026 strategy, which is wild that we're even in
Mm,
2026.
yeah.
Frankly, I had to read that like 3 times. But when you're putting your revenue playbook strategy in place, what I would recommend is absolutely doing what Chris just said is like take a look at your CRM, dig deep into that. Who can you tap for repeat business?
Yep.
If you're putting on a new roof on somebody's house, they may or may not need a repair if you haven't talked to them in 5 years. So reach
Hmm.
back out to them. It's a great way to generate revenue and close out a fiscal year or quarter, but also just make sure you're being consistent, right?
Yep.
Like we want to encourage everyone, consistency is king. We want to make sure that you're communicating with your customers, every single person that you've ever done work for in the past. Great opportunity to warm them back up. It's a great opportunity to provide them with an exceptional customer experience
Yep.
and turn them into what we call a raving fan that's going to go back out into the market, refer their friends and family to you. And what a great time, right? They're going to be
Yep.
together during the holidays. So
And
it's
even take advantage of people's the spirit of the season where people are thinking about the giving, to write a review. Hey, I know we did work for you earlier this year, we never got a review. I mean, did we do a great job? Can you share that? Building reviews is so important because people are doing their research ahead before they even reach out, or even
Mm-hmm.
after they do, to give them that feel good, like, all right, yeah, I did pick the right company to work with. These guys have tremendous reviews. So you can really hit all of those items.
Yeah, absolutely. Ronnie, I'm curious. I have a question for you
Sure.
because you are on the front lines with contractors all day, every day. And
Mhm.
I'm curious what you're hearing and seeing as far as any trends or how your clients are navigating that with a referral program. Is it ad hoc? What does that look like?
So I will tell you what, right now, especially when you're working with PE companies and they're looking at marketing spend, part of this is trying to keep their budgets to around 5%. And I think we lose the reason that with the referral program, your closing ratios are going to be so much higher to based off of what Chris just said. You have at least an 80 to 85, 90% chance of closing that business because it was a warm referral. And one of the things in the trends that I've been working on with a lot of people in the home improvement is like taking some of that marketing money and reinvesting it back into a referral program to where people can actually get their projects built, like just by
Hmm.
them referring, they can get their project paid for free almost by just them giving back that out. Because a lot of times we don't do those things. There's different ways of doing it, how you want to do it, percentages and stuff like that. But I have a lot of that to where people are restarting to take that marketing dollars, pour it back in, because now you're building your brand, your community, you're organically growing your business, and it's not just all around SEO and some of the other things that go in play. So I think that building these systems in place for the referral program and connecting with them like when they're the happiest, like who do you know? So there's some really cool things that I'm seeing that people are trending out there about about getting those referrals. So I would just say that I think if you don't have a referral program, there's some great platforms for that, just like gFour. And I just think that you should look at that and actually build that into your budget to where you're building that in and putting those dollars back into the people that you're doing business with, and then having events for them every year, like a
Yeah.
appreciation type deal, and pulling your teams together. It's the interaction. That's one cool thing we did in Texas, and it's really cool because you're pulling your customers in, and they're meeting the people within inside that organization. So they get to meet the people behind the phone. They get to hear from people that they wouldn't normally ever see. So by creating some events, throughout the year, with your customers is a huge thing. And you can actually, the ROI on that is just by them inviting their friends to those events. You can pick up a lot of new business just by caring about the people.
Oh, that, Ron, and one thing with that too, that leads into is something that, we don't always think about is it leads itself to some great social content. I mean, getting out on your
Hmm.
social channels, extending the reach there, asking people to share, doing customer reviews. There's so much that can be built up there, and we're seeing more and more companies invest into that space and do some really fun and interesting work. I mean, that's where people, they're on their Facebook, they're on, the social media channels, and they're looking for things that are interesting, and they want to work with companies that they like. I mean, we all do.
Yeah. Well, it kind of humanizes things again,
Yeah.
right? It's not just about the bottom line or the dollar. It's about, when people say, well, what do you do for a business? Or I'm in the roofing space, I'm in window space. No, we're in the people business,
Yeah.
and we're building relationships, and we're taking care of people's investments, their homes, and people that are trying to make those sanctuaries for them. So I think anything we can do to humanize this industry and care about the people is going to go a way further in
Yeah,
what we do.
exactly. And I think just to kind of lean on that, I just actually came off of a 3-day business in a box training with Brian Gottlieb. So I'm on fire right now, because he is incredible. But one of the things, he really hammers on is focusing on the community and getting involved in the community. That was one of his great reasons for success at Tundraland. The things they did, like the window projects they did, where they painted old windows, they reused them. The singing in the shower, where they gave away music scholarships to music schools. I mean, just really the involvement in the community is so important, and it gets you a lot of free exposure. Whether it be through the press, through social. There's a lot of ways that can just generate more business, and a lot of this is going to start, like Ronnie, like you said, from your CRM, inviting people to these events, inviting them to participate, and reaching out to them personally to then draw in more.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny you say that, Chris, because we here at gFour have like I would say like a running inside joke. It says, and being invited to the party, right? Like
Yeah,
we want to invite people to the party. We want them
Mhm.
to have a good time. We want them to have a good experience. So it's just
exactly.
to run it back to that consistency piece is important. And you know what else is interesting is I get this question a lot, and you guys probably do as well, but I get the question, what is one thing that we can do today to start,
Mhm.
like change, turn the heat up on asking for referrals, implementing a plan, a game plan, things like that. What I always tell them is you don't have to do everything at once. It's okay to
Mhm.
start small. So for those of you listening to this right now, what I recommend is just do something, right? It doesn't have to be the
Yeah.
whole enchilada up front. As long as you're taking the steps to do something, asking for the referral, asking for the review, implementing a process over time is going to
Right.
transform your business.
Well, and part of that too, it's not only it definitely has to become part of your process. I mean, the asking for the review needs to be built into the
Yeah.
process, and depending where you put that. And it's also, and the only way to get people, I think, to buy into that process is incentivize them for it. Give a bonus for everybody who, for the person who gets the review, whether it be on your install team, um, somebody in your call center, wherever it might be. Give them
Mhm.
the incentive. For every review you get this. For every referral that we get, you get this. I mean, it's got to be incentive based. That's going to build the habit and build the culture within your business to make that part of the process. I'm sure you've seen that, Ronnie.
I have, and then also, when you're putting a plan together, it's already right there at the fingertips. And I think, but going back to like automating these things about it, like when you're in your processes, like when you get ready to close the job out, there's no better time than reaching back out. And so you can go in and create these automated tasks to where to
Mhm.
go to the salespeople. It could go to somebody in the office. There's gift baskets. There's all kinds of cool things that you can do. And especially right here during the holidays. And that's something that a lot of people have
Yeah.
appreciated, just the gift baskets and stuff like that. You're building it into the job. It's not costing you anything. So I would say, just as of right now, as you're winding down this year, is we've said it earlier, but it's just looking at where you are and going back and just looking at the last 30 days, looking at the last 60
Yeah.
days of jobs that have not closed, people that you could follow back up on, and then automating in through your processes and finding out where those pain points are so you can eliminate those. That's the best place to automate when things are falling through the cracks. There's nothing worse than having to be reactive versus proactive. I've said that for years, but
Yeah.
it is so true because it takes so much time and energy to be on fire all the time. So get proactive, start thinking about it now, put the systems in place to where you can automate it and be able to follow it with these customers for sure.
Well, and that goes around not only automate, having those automations go out to the customers. We talked about, those contracts when they're sent
Mhm.
out, like within Builder Prime, for example, we can have a text message sent to your sales rep when somebody opens that contract. So you can be proactive and you're not waiting.
That's right.
Hey, they're looking at this right now, strike. And then, for building that referral program, I love, saying, and I think this makes it something we can do. Just look at the last 30, 60 days. And if they're closed jobs, I mean, Becca, who doesn't love cookies?
Right,
Get
right.
in, talk to the folks at gFour. I mean, sending out something that makes you memorable, makes you stand out. I mean,
Mhm.
there's nothing, the value that you can put on that. Talk about a low cost lead. That's something that really is something, as Ronnie said, everybody loves to receive.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And you know what?
I love cookies, by the way. Just putting that out there. I'll take cookies anytime.
That's so funny. You know what, too, is the referral leads convert at such a higher rate, right? So it's
Hmm.
like you're spending a lot of money on a net new lead, digital lead, whatever it may be, that may or may not end up converting into business for you. But with a referral, it's like a warm, happy lead. You're going to
Yeah.
see like 50% or higher convert on a referral. So why not, when you're setting up your planning for 2026, why not think about your marketing budget and say, okay, how are we going to lower our margin of spend on
Yep.
the marketing side
Yeah.
and
And
see an increase?
yeah, and the best way to do that, to really to prove that and to see it, is my favorite thing to talk about is knowing your numbers. I mean, look at your reports. And that's the other critical piece of your
Yeah.
CRM, is that's where your numbers should live. And all of your numbers should live there. So you should know how many leads are coming in, where they're coming from, what's closing, what's going to, how long it's taking to get to production, what jobs are canceling, which jobs are, finishing it within your time frame. All of that should be housed ideally within one system, and that's
Yes.
within that CRM, and that's always been my number one thing I've focused on when I sold CRM, is reporting, reporting, reporting. I mean, I love the data, being able to access that. And, we've got some super exciting things. I'm just going to put a teaser out there coming in next year with Builder Prime on some advanced reporting. Um, and right now, especially leveraging some of the AI technology that's out there. I mean, what we're going to be able to do with reporting in 2026 is going to blow away anything we've ever seen before. And now is the time, though, to look at those numbers. Let's look at 2025, see where the bright spots are, where we can, as Becca used to, kind of put more heat on, and where do we maybe need to pull back a little bit. And I know, Ronnie, you help people getting this thing set up, and part of you can teach to their numbers. I mean,
Yeah.
numbers. I mean, I'm a numbers freak, and I love it. And you got to know your numbers.
Yeah, and that's been something that's been a topic, and I've done this for almost 2 decades, and that is when you're looking at the systems and the processes and the CRM when it comes to numbers, is being able to make decisions based off of those numbers, but all the conversions, to what you're talking
Mm,
about, from leads to appointments to sign contracts, because it gives you, it leverages you out to where you can train your salespeople to where they are, but being able to control how much money am I spending, how many leads did it
yes.
generate, your cost per acquisition acquisition costs. And those are things that we're able to provide, through our Powerlytics tools and stuff like that. But to your point, and then looking at those conversions, because now you're able to take that and know exactly right down to the pinpoint what your floors are, what your break even numbers are. So that way you can kind of make better choices, better decisions.
Hmm.
And Becca, I think you could probably speak even more to this, but when you start thinking about everything that goes into branding your company, whether you're buying leads or whether you're sponsoring leads, or from the attire you're wearing, these leads can be 350 up to $1,000 per lead. And when we burn through those leads because we're not doing the things that we should be doing, it's like just throwing that money out the window. So I think by looking at the conversions on those, plus your gross profit margins, your net margins, and being able to have those floors and saying, because I've over the last probably 3 weeks, I have so many people that are in the home improvement space that are hitting way below their gross profit margins. I mean, they're way too low. And so in order for your business to be able to expand and grow, there's a fine line to what those profit margins have to be. And then you got to pull that. And that's one thing that I will say with Build a Prom and some of the other CRMs, but Build a Prom does a really good job when it comes to forecasting those numbers, because you can go in there and build the forecast and then be able to track exactly what's in real time and how close you're getting to those numbers. So I think that's important and all the way across, because that's going to help break down to your average tickets, how many contracts the
Hmm.
salespeople need to do. So there's a lot that goes into that, right, Chris? And I think
Yeah.
you're right when it comes to when you're picking a CRM, being able to get to proposals, job costing, reporting, all of those things are very crucial for these guys in the home improvement space to be able to run their business effectively and to know whether they're profitable or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ronnie, you just said something about, when you were discussing burning through leads that you're spending, obviously high volumes of
Mhm.
revenue or money on. Something that I want to encourage everybody listening to this to think about is the lifetime value of your customer.
Mm.
So, if and when you are spending on a net new lead to acquire a customer, I really encourage everybody to think about what I consider build a fence around that customer for life. Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
once we get the customer, we don't want them going anywhere. We don't want them going
Right.
to your competitor. We don't want them forgetting about you. And that's where having a process and running a process is really, really going to help you in 2026 and if not before. Like
Yeah.
working with your
I
CRM, working with your team to make sure that we are constantly in communication with all of our past customers, current customers, lost leads, you name it. I mean, that is like, if you ask me what I would do tomorrow, that would be what I would do first is make sure we're
right.
communicating.
And I think it's important to really, this is a great time of year to evaluate all of your systems. I mean, I'm not saying that you need to make, wholesale changes. I trust you, I get it. Nobody wants to change the CRM. It's painful. It's gotten better. With the data conversion stuff. But one thing to think about is not only where your business is now, but where you want it to be, where you want to go.
Mhm.
Said I just came from an event where people were learning how to implement a 1 day bath business, and a lot of them they have, you could have a, let's say, a vertical specific system, CRM in place, which is even more so than industry specific. So when you're talking, rather than just being a home improvement CRM, it's a roofing CRM. And it's really hard to then add baths to that. So looking for something that is a little bit more, has a platform that allows you to add other product categories, because you're right, Beck. I mean, building a fence around that customer, that is going to open up the opportunity for more product lines that you can sell. And that is how what we've seen over the years, I think all of us, the companies that really grow in scale, they may have started in roofing, but now they do siding. Then they add windows. 1 day baths are huge. That's in a growing market. They're adding on these other pieces, and you need to make sure that your system's in place. You don't want to have to run 2 to 3, definitely not 3, but even 2 different systems. It's really hard to manage a business and get the most out of it by doing that. So
And,
yeah, go ahead, Ronnie.
Chris, with what you're saying is so important because that's what we do, right? I mean, traveling the country, working with contractors, setting up their tech stack, because a lot of times they're doing stuff every day. They already kind of know their process, but it's taking that information and turning it into the digital footprint. But to being able to set these things up properly and to be able to help them to get through this process and training and getting it to adoption. But you're right with everything that's going on in working through the systems and understanding the systems. And we here at Next Level, we're always talking about there's the three E's. There's education, empowerment, and execution. And a lot of times we're living in one of those three E's all the time. So as we're growing, and it is painful when you're talking about it and trying to move data. So doing data migration, stuff like that. But you don't have to do it alone. And I think a lot of times we try to figure it
Good
out
point.
ourselves, right? And for me, for contractors, when you're thinking about investments and you're thinking about investing in the business, it's kind of like having it set up correctly so that way they know how to use it. They will use it because it's easy to use. It's not complicated, and those types of things. So I think you're right on that. And just putting these things together and putting these systems in process, we have seen people grow. Well, not only just grow revenue wise, but save time inside of their
Mhm.
own team. What we found
Yeah.
out in the CRM side, and working with a lot of different CRMs, that when you're running it effectively through automations and everybody knows what they're doing, it saves an average of like 8 hours per employee per week. So just think about that a minute. So you're thinking about how much
Mm.
time you're saving just because everything is running at the highest level of efficiencies. And a lot of times we're trying to throw people at a process issue, and we fix those through the CRMs, through the tech stack, and because you want to be as lean as you can for profitability, and that way you don't have you'd be surprised how many times I've gone into contractors and they've got so many people doing the same thing, and because
Mhm.
they were trying to fix a problem. So anyway, I just think that's critical to what you're saying, and I think that's a huge win based off of what you're mentioning there.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. Ronnie, I actually have a follow-up question to that. When you're sitting down with your clients and contractors looking and helping them plan for next year, what are some of the KPIs that you're assessing right off the bat as far as growth readiness and planning ahead, things like that? What are you looking for specifically?
It kind of goes back to when you're thinking about the reporting, right? It's not just the sales reporting. It's about the booked revenue, completed revenue. It's cycle times. How long does it take?
mm,
So going in and evaluating the company, because a lot of times a lot of people don't even know what their numbers are. They don't know what their profit margins are. They don't know what their net margins are. And when you talk about the net profit of a job versus the net profit of the company, you'd be surprised how many contractors don't even know the difference of that. So when we start evaluating it, we're looking at the marketing spend, we're looking at the conversion rates, and we're putting these things together and building KPIs to where they know exactly. It's kind of like a GPS. I just went to Monterey, never been there in my life, right? I put a destination in by using a GPS. Well, it told me the right turn, the left turn, it told me exactly how to get there. And so when we're looking at the data, I'm looking at everything. It's not just conversions. It's not just gross profit. It's not just net profit. It's like how long did it take for this customer to actually go from lead to where I collected the money? So when you're thinking about like average ticket size, when you're thinking about like if they're underperforming, and just so I look at a lot of things when it comes to the reporting, and we put it the floors. Are they underselling their product? Because they're selling. It's ironic when we're looking at reports is that in sales for salespeople, it's easier to sell on price versus product. What I try to teach people is it's like, especially in the roofing space, if you're looking at the roofing space or you're looking at windows and doors, because of the margins on that, is like you shift them on product and not profit, because so many times we'll give up the profit to where you barely, by the time everybody got paid, you really didn't make any profit to the company. So I
mhm.
look at their P&L reports. I mean, I dig in and really understand COGS and a lot of different things. So I don't want to bore them, but I'm going in and looking at sales. Think of it this way: I look at marketing, sales, operations, and accounting. So when I look at reporting, I'm looking at the marketing spend. Is it too high? Is it too low? I'm looking at sales. I'm looking at the revenue numbers. I'm looking at the bottom lines and things. Same thing with like how many jobs do they need to do per year in order to be able to complete and so on. So there's a lot of there that I get into when it comes to reporting.
Yeah, that's great. And, you know, when it comes to budgeting and planning for the next year, what I have been also hearing a lot about is how to incorporate that into, to your point, Ronnie, the P&L and like the marketing plan. And from a referral standpoint, I talk about this a lot, but one of the statistics that I love the most is 82% of referrals happen within 3 months after the job is closed out.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
if you're taking that number and working backwards from a revenue generation standpoint and your average
Yeah.
ticket size, it's a great indicator of, you know, I guess not indicator, but benchmark of what you can use and expect
Mhm.
from a revenue generator
Yeah.
for like your playbook and things like that.
And I think budgeting is huge. You know, in this industry, sometimes contractors don't really set budgets to place to how much it makes it a lot easier in building into their jobs, to where they got overhead coming out of every one of those jobs and looking at that, because then that way they can take some of that overhead that they're pulling out for marketing or administrative costs, and so we just look at the whole gamut of the business to see the health of it, to determine like what levers do we need to move and pull to be able to get them to profitability, especially with the PEs. Like a lot of contractors today, everybody's looking at PE, and there are so many parameters around private equity to what they're looking at and what they're
Mhm.
wanting to see, because they're wanting it to be more organic. And that's where the G with gFour and having more organic versus paid, they don't want
Yeah.
that to be so heavy. And so it's just looking at all of that, Becca, to be honest with you.
And I actually have a question for you, Ronnie, too.
Yeah.
With when you're doing this, I mean, obviously to get this data, to have it so it's something that you can then work with and help them plan, it's got to be in there in the first place. I mean, how do you
Yeah.
really coach and train people to get them to make sure they're utilizing their systems properly and getting everything in and having it all so you can pull these? I mean, I know one thing that, thought about, when you talk about PE in particular, when they're looking to purchase companies, the easier the data is to see, the better the data in one place, the
Mhm.
more, I guess, viable, purchasable
It
they are.
is. It
But
is.
making sure that people are, following your process and getting those numbers and getting all the information into the CRM in the first place, that's probably the biggest challenge, wouldn't you say?
It is, and really kudos to you guys, because a lot of times where it becomes a problem is when people are trying to pull numbers outside of the system because it's
Hmm.
not giving them the data right. So going in and being able to where people are working within the system without having to do anything, to where it's running on the backside of it, to where they're just doing their jobs on a day-to-day basis. And you guys have done a really good job with that, and other CRMs have done the same thing. But I just think that when you're looking at conversion rates, that's based off of the product, like your statuses, your sales, like your
Hmm.
processes in sales, because you're gathering all of these cycle times and stuff like that. But pulling the data from different places. But I think ultimately, yes, to your question, I think that it's all in the CRM. The question is like, if it didn't happen within your CRM, it didn't happen at all. And
Right.
and and I think it's just getting everybody to just do what they were hired to do and put there to do. And then if everybody, because it all starts with the time the phone ring, from the time the office person receives that information. Because if they're inputting the data into the system and they're not skipping those steps, they're following the process, they don't like jump 3 or 4 steps, then the data will actually be there, and we can pull the reports from that. And then pulling those reports, we can put it into analytics that will give them, all of the reporting based off of the what they're trying to do.
And I guess that's where the automation comes in too, then, is I know,
Yeah,
with systems having things so they're automatically moving to the next stage. So you're not having to have somebody so, oh, I forgot to do that. It's
that's
happening.
right.
And then an automation, a text goes out.
Hmm.
And having a record of all of that history is also
Yep.
critical. Because I mean, back to your point, I mean, I know you guys work with a lot of CRMs because you rely on that data and making sure that the data is right so that you can, put together programs. So what, from your standpoint, to implement a successful, program with gFour, and whether it be referrals, reviews. I mean, what have you found? What is critical for you guys? We're going to turn it back on the moderator.
Yeah, absolutely. I think to your point, Chris, having accurate data is key. You have to have a system in place and a program that's working behind the scenes to make sure that everything is flowing forward. Um, when it comes to implementing a referral program, I would highly recommend to anyone listening to this, if you don't have anybody on your team that has the bandwidth to run this program, you are not alone. There are partners out here that are here to help. Hello, gFour.
Yay!
But in all seriousness, you are not on an island here. I mean, it really is transformative for your business to have a referral program in place and have a game plan. I think I highly recommend, if you don't have a plan, that would be step one. Put together a plan or reach out to a partner that can help you strategize on what that plan looks like.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, and I think also having the CRM integration is important and, well,
Yeah,
I would say helpful. And that's where Builder Prime comes in, because at gFour, we have a direct integration with Builder Prime. So it's really operating at all times behind the scenes for you,
right.
which is ideally the situation we want you to be in, so that that frees you up to work on the business, go out, take care of business, not having to manually do this yourself, which we all know.
And I think, and that's an important point, Rebecca. And that's one thing I'll just, as we're talking about, even best practices around CRM and CRM implementation, a lot of folks, when they hear that they're looking to check boxes when they're looking for a CRM, for example. All right, does it integrate with gFour? Yes, check. Does it integrate with QuickBooks? Yes, check. Unfortunately, that's not enough, because the word integration is so vague, I have to say. That an integration could mean we pass one field over. Yes, we
Yeah,
integrate. You have to ask questions. You have to really spend the time to get to understand, especially those critical integrations for your business that are going to really save you time. What do they look like? How exactly do they work? Because they don't they may not end up saving you time. And you may say, okay, yes, you said you integrate, and then there's a back and forth, and it's very vague. So having documentation or very understanding, those key systems that you use, especially I'd say the accounting system, probably the most important one. Ronnie, you probably see that,
yeah,
is always, everyone says, oh yeah, we integrate with QuickBooks, and that can mean so many things. You really
it
have to
can.
look into it.
And honestly, I'm glad you said that, because we have the ability to integrate. In other words, if there's not open APIs there, if one system don't talk to them, you have Zapier, and I think that's what we were talking about. That through these
Yep.
integrations, because if you're able to integrate to your main hub, to your CRM, to where it's pulling the data, whether you're using Go High Level for your marketing or you're using whatever platforms you're using, being able to get those systems to talk to each other, and that goes back to kind of like what I was saying. So just to clarify, because I think that the integrations are so huge, especially depending on like which ones that they're using. Because when you start getting your people to have to go work in 2 to 3 or 4 different systems, or if you can't get the reporting out of it, so they go create spreadsheets. A lot of
Mm,
contractors, they'll go build their own spreadsheets, but being able to take even those spreadsheets, if they are having to utilize those, because we can take those spreadsheets and still put them into one platform to where you have one set of dashboards, to where now you're getting it from the CRM, you're getting it from your
right.
marketing, and you're pulling all that together. So it helps the business owners to be able to make quicker decisions from marketing to sales, to operations, to accounting, and so on. So I think integrations, and I think it's important with gFour, like integrations with that, with Builder Prime, and the way that those work, because truly you're just working in the business and on the business. And that's where a lot of business owners get trapped. They get trapped of working in the business, and they never have time to work on the business, and trying to fix these things. And sometimes you just have to pause. You have to disrupt yourself and say, you know what, I've done this for 25. I don't want to go into 26. So it's not an interruption. You're just taking a disrupting yourself long enough to fix the internal issues to get all these systems to work. And that's just something that we can all help on. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Love it.
Yeah, absolutely, Ronnie. You guys, these are such great insights. And I really love that we dialed it back to optimizing processes. I think that's a really
Mhm.
key component, right, of all three of what we are doing here.
Right.
Um,
Mhm.
but with all that to say, I know we are only booked for 1 hour today. So what do you guys say we wrap it up with a quick lightning round?
Yeah,
Love
that's
it.
fine.
Okay, I'll hit you with one question. So if you guys want to answer this for the attendees, if you had to give one piece of advice to an owner who's listening to this right now, who has a database full of contacts that is having a hard time converting them into contracts, what's the one piece of advice right now you would give them?
Ronnie, go first. You go first.
Um, so let me make sure I understand the question. So you're saying that if you have tons of people in your database, and you're saying, how can I go through them to be able to reach back out? Depending on like I don't know what CRM that you're using, but it would be very easy to go in, create a report, put some parameters around the report. I would say if you're trying to focus something like that's 90-day old, that might be a little bit old, I would go back and focus on everything between 30 to 60 days. I would
Mhm.
create a report on it. I would put the information within the report, name, address, phone number, pull all of that data, because now you can do like there's tools out there that you can do like some massive emails to where it doesn't take a lot of time of someone
Yep.
trying to reach out to 3 to 500. You got MailChimp, you got Go High Level. So there are systems there to where you can go in there and you can put together a really nice follow-up email to where it don't look fake or anything like that. So I would create the report, put it into a system, and then I would allow that system to be able to send those things out. And I would do it on a more of a time base of how much I'm going to release on each day, so that way it don't get trapped. And then that's what I would do. So I think you would narrow that down to the last 30 to 60 days, and then pull from that list, because those are going to be the ones that you're going to probably have the highest level of chance closing, that could still be looking, is what I would recommend. So I would, I don't know what CRM you're using, but I would go run a report to get the information. Then I would export it and then import it, and then send out some really cool emails to follow up, and then
Yeah, and
phone
I
calls on top of that.
exactly. And I agree with that. And I think number one, if you can't get that report out of your CRM, call me. Um, but you should be able to, especially any industry specific CRM, you should be able to pull that without any problem at all. And the other thing I'll tie into that is something I picked up over the last few days with Brian is, have an incentive, have an offer, have a very specific offer for this so that you can measure it, you can have a call to action to get people interested right away. And the omni-channel approach, like you just said, whether it be email, text, phone calls, whatever you have the ability to do. I think email is obviously the easiest. You can put that together and get it out, but have
Yeah.
as many touch points as you can. But yeah, make an offer, have something. Hey, we're doing this just for you. Make them feel like they've earned it. They've done something special that we can get a part of it.
And a lot of times we didn't get the business because we just didn't ask for it. And I think by the ones that come back and respond, and you're following up with them, because I'm always curious, not about the ones that I've closed as much as the ones, why did I not close it? What was it about that? So I think that going through this list is a great exercise, because you may learn some things to where it could have been a personnel type thing. It could have been something different that you didn't even know that was going on. Maybe they just never followed up with the customer. So I would think I would do some spot checks. You might want to say, if you have 200 or 300 that you're reaching out, you might want to take like the top 50 and have someone within inside of your organization to call them and do some spot checks and ask those questions. Hey, thank you so much for giving us this opportunity to be able to quote this job. I would love to learn from you and gather some feedback to why you decided not to maybe go with us, because a lot of times contractors are scared of what the information they're going to get back. But
Yeah.
it's a very powerful way, if in order for you to grow. I just think that spot checking these things, and that's just where I think I would start. Unless, Chris, you have something you want to add to that.
No, that sounds like a great strategy.
Yeah,
What he
and
said.
to add to what you said, Ronnie, like I said it earlier in this session, if you do not have the capacity to do this on your own, there are partners that exist
Right.
to help you with this.
Yep.
gFour obviously is fantastic at helping you implement a referral program. It can do exactly what Ronnie mentioned, which is
Mm,
follow up with your contacts in your
Yep.
CRM and make sure that we're putting that consistency in place to communicate with them ask for the referral, make sure that we build that fence around the customer.
Yeah,
So
and I think it kind of gets back to what I kind of started with, focusing with industry specific solutions. And that's not just the CRM, that's other, partners and vendors as well. This gFour has done this with, thousands of contractors. It's been successful, it works, it's been
Mhm.
proven. Call them, find out about it, see if they can help you. It is not a cost, it's an investment, and it's often a way to generate more. You're going to generate more revenue than you're going to spend. I'll tell you that much. So it is something to leverage the experience that people have. As I mentioned, I know personally the team at gFour, these guys, they know their stuff, and they're going to lead you in the right direction, and they're going to give you some advice that's going to help you run your business better. I mean, these guys, they're true professionals. They're the best. They've taught me a lot over my career.
And Chris, that being said, as a business owner, think about your time. Think about how valuable your time is. And a lot of times we want to try to cut costs. And I like the fact that you're using investment, because you are truly making an investment. And as a business owner, as me being a business owner, it's so easy to want to get into the weeds because you enjoy those things. But pulling yourself out of it and using those resources, because a lot of time it's a fractional of the money of like using gFour and being able to pull those lists. And you're absolutely right. And being able to utilize those is very important, because that way you can spend more time in going after the business and doing other things and working on the business. So I agree with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
awesome responses, guys. So it looks like we're about at time, but I did want to launch one more closing poll for the crowd that's still with us here. Just to see if anyone is interested in any of our expert services. So just feel free to participate in this poll, and we will absolutely be in touch and set up some time to connect with your teams.
Yeah. I
But
said, take advantage of these opportunities, because again, no matter what, whether you end up using our services or not, we're here to help you and help educate you about, not only our product, but others in the marketplace and other partners that we work with. So, we're just use this as a resource. That's what we're here for.
Yeah. And then too, while they're filling this poll out, one of the things that we wanted to do to give back to the industry, because we love everybody in this industry. There's a lot of great people in this industry, and so we're offering, just doing a 30-minute free session to be able just to look at your tech stack, see what you have, see what you're using, maybe what you're not using, and you're welcome to schedule that with some of our consultants and coaches. That's absolutely free for those that are wanting to do that. And then for those that end up, if you decide to do business with us, then because you watch this webinar, part of this webinar, then we're going to offer 15% on any services that you guys choose that we can help. So we're just here to help.
awesome, Ronnie. Well, Chris and Ronnie, thank you both so much for participating in this awesome session.
Thank you, Becca.
And
Thank
in
you.
closing, yeah, absolutely. And in closing, just to triple reiterate that your CRM is not just where your data lives, but it truly is the key to unlock that hidden revenue for your playbooks in 2026. So without further ado, we appreciate everybody so much for taking the
Thank
time to
you.
join us today, and we look forward to connecting with you. Please feel free to reach out to us at any point and keep an eye out for some follow-up.
All right.
Thank
Thank
you,
you all. Have a
guys.
great day.
Thanks, everybody. Have a
All
great
right.
day.
Bye-bye.